Thanks, Minister, for your presentation. And we in the Labour Party are acutely aware, I suppose, of the undeniable importance of these industries to rural Ireland and to the significant contributions, I suppose, that are made to the rural economies in terms of employment, both direct and indirect, and of course through exports, especially in the horse racing area. Our support in relation to this fund is not unconditional. It's conditional, very much conditional, and indeed, if you were in here 5 months ago, you would not have the Labour Party support. And that would have been the first time in 2 decades since I was there at the very bringing in of this bill, the 2001 Act, because everyone has to get their act cleaned up. There's invaluable money going in here. The beneficiaries of all state funding just have to keep their house, get their house in order, and rightly so, because I mean it's a significant funding. 84 million is a lot of money. There's a lot of other areas that could benefit from it as well, and wants to keep their house in order from the perspective of ensuring that animals, and either that be horses or greyhounds, but more particularly I suppose the greyhounds, that was the subject of as Deputy Cal referred to a documentary here some months back, they have to be subject to the highest standards of welfare, absolutely, and protection, and treated with compassion and respect from birth right through to their final days, especially and I'm glad that I have to say Mr. Nehan and them reassured us here, and Deputy Cal referred to it as well, Mr. Nehan and I think Mr. Dollard, they were very reassured in the recent appearance before the committee, and especially the rehoming allocations and the retirement, the trust homes and all of that. It's about time. But I have to say this though, in fairness to everybody involved in the industry, all of this work starts with the animal owner themselves. If I have an animal, I should be looking after them. It should be part of my remit to look after an animal, not be fostering off to somebody else. Unless there's a huge number or something else. But I think Board and One have got a handle on this, and that's why we'll be supporting this today. But it's only in the last couple of months that certainly, and I think the new board there has, and the new chairperson, he's no longer he's over a year there now, I think it's thereabouts, he certainly's got a handle on it. He reassures one and gives one confidence. But I think it's absolutely vital and paramount that all industries that are receiving state subventions must act with absolute integrity and probity in relation to how they run their affairs, in relation to the welfare of the animals under the supervision and the governance and probity and integrity of the various industries and established, and especially in the greyhound area. I think this traceability, I see the advertisement there recently for the welfare officers and that senior executive officer at a level. That's another very positive development. And we're all, they needn't think we're taking our eye off the ball. We're all watching. We don't need any programmes to tell us when things are wrong, because our constituents tell us as well. I have to say, Mr. Kavanagh over the years has always stated, and I haven't always agreed with him, but some people know, but I have to say that in the recent years he's always said that he'd like to see the industry get to a point that be self-financed, that it wouldn't be dependent upon any state. It's an objective, and I think it's it's one of the objectives that hopefully will be achieved. But if you look at it, and we all come in and say the state's the point, but you've got out, I think 80 odd million from the increase in the betting tax already, isn't it? 80 odd million. So I have extrapolated, 60 odd million. And I extrapolated, that's for 2/3 of the year. So for the full year, that should be about 90 million, 90 odd million. So therefore the 84 million is covered by the betting tax. So it's important to send out that message. That's actually, it's not coming from the sources. I mean, I myself would say, it should go into orthodontics and everything else, but it is actually coming from within the industry. And it's important that message goes out. Now, of course, I have to straight away, the football clubs and everybody else, they're saying, should we bet as well? And this is the argument that they make. But nevertheless, I think it's worthwhile saying that money is coming from within the betting industry, and it's no longer, it is something that, and I suppose the way to try and make it fully financed is to make sure that all aspects of the betting levies areas are levied appropriately. some of the money goes into prize funds, particularly in horsing. I mean, there's no problem with prize funding in horse racing, but you know, I'd like to see more money going into prize funds for, you know, I mean, there's a 4 or 5 owners there, and it's great having the big races in the Curragh and everything else. But I mean, the races down in the Lake of Kilbeggan and Roscommon and Sligo and all of those, Ballinrobe, you know, more help has to be given to those. And if I disagree with the HRI over anything, Minister, it's the way I won't use the expression, it's an old one in Ballincarriga, but it would be saying that the fat goose always gets fatter. And if you're rubbing off a grease to the posterior, it'll get fatter still. And that's the way I feel that about this. I've always had this thing. You know, the thoroughbred industry is certainly one that's well able to cater for itself. There's a lot of advocates, and there's only 4 or 5. But you go down where Senator Daly is, and down there he's the chairperson. He's doing I might as well mention him. He's doing a great good job there in Kilbeggan, and more expansions and everything else. But they're fighting there every day, trying to get a bit of sponsorship and everything else, and trying to make races attractive. And sometimes HRI are not as generous as they should be in the allocations, and puts lots of, you know, I mean, there's lots of conditions attached, and sometimes you look at some of the other big races where there might be only 6 or 7 horses competing, and maybe 4 or 5 of them might be out of one stable. You know, so I mean, I have this thing. It's a little bit of an irritation with me that, you know, the 68 million. Someone's gone into a fund that's big prize funds that the ordinary Joe that I would meet at the race meeting, and people who have old shares on horses and stuff like that, they'll never have an opportunity of being on that pitch. Whereas like at the jumps meetings that you can compete with Michael O'Leary even if you've only a horse guy down boarding somewhere down the back lane somewhere. So that's what I like about that, and that's the difference. That's why I'd be very supportive of the jumps in industry in that regard. You know, I knew you were going to come up with this horse sport Ireland stuff, and in fairness, you have tried to be nudged along the harness racing submissions and everything else, and they seem to be a very reputable group. Any time they come in here, they made very, very strong presentations, and ones that would impress you. But I think the legislation underpinning this Horse and Greyhound Fund Bill, the 2001 Act, I remember it well, can be amended so low a dedicated sum. It's not so big. They're only $500,000 to them is like somebody else getting, you know, I mean, 10 million. And you know, we have a fund there of 84 to 90 euros, 90 million. So it's supposed to be that next year, or the year after. But €1 million or that would go a long way. And if we had to amend the legislation to ensure that they're a new body that coming out in the last few years, there's an international aspect to them. They carry out things in a very professional way. And I concur with what Deputy Cahill says. That maybe, you know, if we could divert maybe a bit of money to them in some shape or form by amending the legislation. You says, I know you're not, you'd act ultra vires the legislation if you carried on like that now, and you've tried to give them some monies without trespassing into this area. But I think myself that, you know, they're a new body, a new area. They could become self-financing a lot quicker than the others with a little boost. So I think that that's an important area. Every time Brian Cavanagh came in, he spoke about Brexit here for the last 18 months, and we were quite acutely aware of the trilateral relationship and the way that could be significantly affected. But one of the things I'm glad to see is I think that there is an All-Ireland dimension now to integrity and probity and greyhounds and everything like that. I think they're working with their colleagues there. And I think that's important, that we root out anybody who's misbehaved. And there should be no tolerance, irrespective of the status of the individuals, that to be the top trainer or whatever else, out to go. And there should be no one smiling over the television getting top awards where they have transgressed. It's not a good example to the ordinary person who tries to mind their greyhounds or run their greyhounds at very limited and do the best they can and provide top-class welfare. So I think we have reached that stage now that transgressors, the bigger they are, the harder they should fall.